weekly. We cannot neglect our weekly studies. So everybody, it's important that we get back to what we're doing, and that's why I said, if we give this break, it's going to be something that is going to be catch up on later. So let's keep going, okay, and let's add. Okay, so we are in. I think we finished the book of Bereshit this week, and we've entered into Shemot, which is the book of Exodus. And book of Shemot now is is a different start altogether in the storyline of the children of Israel, of the Ben Israeli. And if you look at Shemot, you'll understand that Shemot is about the coming out of Mitzrayim, right? First of all, the going in of Israel, staying in Mitzrayim, living, thriving in Mitzrayim, and the coming out from Mitzrayim. So Mitzrayim represents a place, as we all know, a constriction, a, a place of hindrance, a place that makes you uncomfortable, tight, a bondage, a kind of shackling around a person, and uh, and it's not an easy place to live in, right? But I think God has His own time and purpose and His own way that He brings people out, and He migrates them from a world system that is Mitzrayim into a kingdom that He is built for those who are able, or those who are able to overcome, those who are willing to migrate from this world system and come to Him in humility and say, Father, Lord, please change me. I am in Mitzrayim right now, and I'm going through all these things in my life, but please take me out. Okay, so Mitzrayim comes from a word tsar in Hebrew. So the tsar, tsar is the word for constriction, to be in a constricted place. Okay, so everybody's turned with me to chapter 1 of Shemot, and we're going to read through a couple of verses from this chapter. It says, "Vele Shemot bnei Israel habayim Mitzrayima et Yaakov ish ibaito ba'u." And these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt with Yaakov. Each man and his household came. Then it gives the names of the 12 tribes, like Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Binyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Vasher, Vayehi, Hol, Nefesh. What does it use? It uses the word Nefesh out here, right? Hol Nefesh, Yadzai, Yarak, Yaakov, Shavaim, Nefesh, Vayosef, Haya, Be Mitzrayim. And there were 70 souls who came, and then it goes on to say Joseph died and all his brothers, and that entire generation died. And the children of Israel were fruitful, teemed, increased, and became strong, very, very much so, and the land was filled with them. Right. So this was what the blessings of God had given Abraham, right? I will multiply a seed and they will be exceedingly fruitful, right? And they will be as huge and vast as the multitude of the stars and as the sand of the sea. So how does God have effect on humanity? How does God have effect on a tribe? How does God have a direct effect upon a country, a people, a race, a tongue, a language? There is one country whose people are tall and strong. There's another country whose people are smaller built and they're less weaker. And there's another country who believes in eating fruits and vegetables because they're for weaker sort. The other country who eats only meat, who's gluttonous about meat, and there are people in this world who are physically not very strong. They don't have very good Etzem. They don't have very good, uh, you would say, mazal, or that flow of life energy is not very strong in them. So the characters are a lot weaker. Their speech is a lot weak. Their mind is wavering. Their personalities are not very strong. There are other people who are very vocal and strong personalities and physically strong, and you have all types of people in this world. And then you have people who are absolutely fruitful, and you have men and women who are fruitful and who are capable of producing 10 and 15 children if they have to, and you have other people who struggle to have even one child, and a whole lot of complications and all. How is this all about, right? We look at this in a very constrictive way because God has put us in constriction. And but for Israel, God said, I will change your Etzem. That means the divine force to team, to drive fertility and strength, divine strength was given to Israel. That whatever they touched, they were flourishing, they were strong. They, in colloquial terms, or in genetic terms, you'll say that DNA, they had a very different type of DNA, right? But I'm not going to concentrate on the word DNA because DNA does not uh, suffice in what we're trying to study. God had infused them with life and life abundantly. That's a more simpler way of putting it. And this life and life abundantly means their very life force. I hope you're all understanding what I'm saying. The very life force was strong. In Hebrew, the most common greeting when they greet somebody and they want to compliment somebody or they want to congratulate somebody, when a child is born or a wedding takes place, or they want to congratulate somebody, they say Metsuyan, right? We know what Metsuyan is. But a, a more appropriate blessing is they say Mazal Tov. Mazal Tov. What is Mazal? What is Mazal Tov? Mazal is the word for constellations. Simple as that. So they're saying, in other words, that your constellation, let the flow. There's a flow. From the word mazal, you also get the word nodzal. Nodzal in Hebrew is flow. It's flow. So that has been kind of used by the secular world, saying, let let your energy flow. Let your energy flow. You must have heard of these things. We've sometime in our life we've come across these words. Oh, there's a good flow of energy. This, let you. So Mazal Tov is the concept of that from your root system, from your this thing, let your energy flow. Now, this is very specific to the Jewish people. It's not for the world, because the world is in the root system of the 70 nations, and that is Mitzrayim. That is a place of constriction. That's a place that soul, whether he's prosperous, healthy, wise, intelligent, dumb, whatever that soul is going through on this earth, he's been governed with the world system, and 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 that world system is in charge of that soul. Not so with the Jewish people, or rather, they were not meant to be under that Jewish that this world system, because God had removed them on Pesach. The one of the things that happened on Pesach was God removed them from that world system and transferred them into His own supervision, personal supervision. That is why all throughout the Nevi'im, God says, "Don't you know, Israel? I married you. I carried you on the wings of an eagle. I this and I done that, and because they were God's own specific inheritance. Therefore, they were not under the world system called Mitzrayim. God had to remove them from Mitzrayim. So when we think about Pesach, when we think about Passover, okay, we have to have a broader picture as to what exactly is happening and what this Pesach actually mean. Okay, please understand this. So now in verse 7 out here it says, U bene Israel paru ve ish radzu. They were, Peru means fruit, right? Peru is fruit in Hebrew. U Peru, they were fruitful. That means the fruit of their body, the seed, was so strong that they were giving birth, like, you know how kittens litter 5 and 10 and 6 and 7 kittens at a time, cats. This is how they were giving birth. It is said that each Hebrew woman was giving minimum birth to about 5 or 6 children at a time. They were teeming with that kind of life, and this was very alarming for the Egyptians, for the rulers in Mitzrayim, because when they were looking at them getting one child, forget a twin, they were looking at the Hebrew women. They were giving birth at one time 3, 4, 5, and not only once but even 4 and 5 times, and they were just multiplying, and it was very alarming. And this is the reason why the Egyptians took cognizance of this and saying something wrong, something's happening out here. Why is this happening? They were threatened. They felt, you know, small, and it was a complete inferiority complex as to what is happening around here. Okay, and it uses the word paru, so fruitful, and it was vai ratsu, vai Yishratsu simply means to team and to crawl around. So it's a word that's used, sharats. It's a word that's used for insects. It's literally insects. What do insects? Have you seen multipedes and millipedes and centipedes? How they crawl over each other like this in thousands? That's the exact understanding of what Yishratsu is all about. So now you all can imagine what is happening to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim, friends. Okay, it's tremendous when you look at this. So it says Vaparu vai ishratsu vai the bear vai etzamu, and they became vai rabbu, sorry, vai rabbu vai yetsamu, and they vai rabbu means vastly, greatly, right, immensely. Vai etzamu, they Etzem, the essence that God had put into them, that fruitfulness was hitting levels outside the normal human capacity to procreate and to fill and to uh, populate. And it's very alarming, friends. So this is what was basically happening. This is the reason why the rulers and Paro and the king of Egypt took cognizance of what was happening and said something needs to be done about this. And therefore, we read the story about Paro, instructing the midwives, take all the male and throw them and kill them and throw them into the water and do this, and a whole lot of stuff is happening. So you'll have to understand the background about everything. Nevertheless, uh, in our course, Meslut Gerim, we are also talking about the 12 tribes. We're talking about the 12 constellations. Okay. So the 12 constellations of this world and the 12 tribes of Israel, how God had to create an alternate system for the 12 constellations that every soul is born under. And these 12 tribes of Israel, the migration from souls from year to year will finally go, and God will place the Goyim amongst the 12 tribes of Israel, because that is the alternate and that is the finality of where humanity is going to be. They were going to be grafted within the tribes of Israel. That is the Israel of God. That's the thing. Nevertheless, when we're looking at the 12 tribes, Revan, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Binyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, and Yosef obviously was in Singh. Now, can anyone tell me? Uh, can anyone think basically why do we need 12 tribes? Why do we need? What is a tribe? And why is God so imperative that there has to be 12 tribes? Why is He in reinforcing the idea, the concept of a tribe? That are not one or two, but we're talking about 12 tribes, and that's huge. When they came into the land, they got their allotment. Menashe and Ephraim got uh, a major portion of the 12 of the land because they were vastly population. They were a large tribe. Menashe and Ephraim. They were large tribes, and they were large tribes because of I don't I mean they just grew, and the smallest tribes was Binyamin. Binyamin was the smallest of the tribes. Okay, and they inherited a place which is like the Golan Heights today, and moving into parts of uh, modern day Jordan, and all those areas touching Damascus and Syria. All that portion belonged to Menashe and Ephraim, and right up till Mount Hermon, all those areas, and Dan, Naphtali, and top. Okay, Yehuda and Binyamin below, and they this was the land, this was the allotment. But why 12 tribes? What was God trying to achieve by 12 tribes? Now, I want you to understand that the creation of God is is very dynamic. It's vastly, it seems very individualistic, but it is not. Okay, it seems that every soul that is born obviously is going to be different from another. Even if two twins are born from one womb, they may look similar, they may do things similar, but if you look closely at even a twin, they're still different, right? They're still very unique in their own way. Each one is very unique in their own way. So God likes diversity, and diversity is good. Expression of life, one from the other, the distinguishment of life, one from the other is very, very important because that's what gives us joy. That's what gives us meaning to life. And God has made it so. God does not want one tribe to do one thing on this earth. He decided in his eternal wisdom that there are going to be 12 tribes, and these 12 tribes will have their own flavor, their own colors, their own characteristic, their own and whatever, and they're going to multiply. And this is so true actually, because imagine that all of us, or every one of this in this world, are uniform in 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 everything. We'd be like zombies walking around. What fun is life without diversity and without colors, right? So uh, God took out, He made this, uh, He made sure that the 12 tribes were going to add a lot of color for the world to come, friends. This is His basic idea. But there's a difference in the way God is looking at diversity and the way a human processes diversity. It's a big difference. So, how would I try and compare the two, right? Or try and understand God's idea of diversity and man's idea of diversity. So God's idea of diversity is uniqueness in oneness, whereas man's idea is individualistic in assimilation. So let me give an example like this. It's like saying uh, the difference between a salad bowl and a melting pot. Does anyone know the difference between a salad bowl and the melting pot? Or how would I mean, I think this is the best example which I can give you. Salad bowl and a melting pot. A salad bowl is a composition of a couple of things, right? You have a green, you have a fruit, you have an acidic mixture thrown on there, right? You have a dry fruit or a nut. And when you're eating a salad, although it's complementing in a oneness or in a one bowl, you can still taste the individual flavors and the individual uh, 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 flavors and the tastes of all the ingredients put together. So you can pick up a green, or you can pick up a strawberry or a cherry, or you can pick up a cashew nut or a nut, and all that, whether it's salty, sweet, acidic, sour, bitter, everything has different tastes in your mouth, and you're enjoying all those tastes, right? So that is a salad bowl. But a melting pot is where everybody loses his uniqueness and merges and melts into each other. And that is dangerous. So God does not want a melting pot of humanity. God is looking at a salad bowl. So he's putting the 12 tribes together to have this great big bowl of salad, okay, with its own uniqueness, its own taste, its own flavors, its own, but he does not want a melting pot. Melting pot is the way a human being wants to subject another human being and say, okay, you become like me, and we all become one, and we all do this and we all do that, and you no, that's not how it works. That's not how you live life. All dictators, all authoritarian uh, uh, those people who are in authoritarian figures, people or governments or whatever, will always have a melting pot attitude to their subjects and their people in the cities, cultures, regions, all around. And melting pot is very, very dangerous. Now, if you notice, humanity is constantly with this melting pot. We have melting pots in society, right? And we have melting pots in our culture, and this and then you have people who get up and say, I don't want to be part of this, I don't like this anymore. We tend to get out because God has not made us to become and to lose our uniqueness and our flavor and to merge in a alternate oneness that is not the oneness that God so desires for humanity. So I want you to understand the difference between a melting pot and a salad bowl, right? Or we can use other kind of analogies also. However, you all want to process this. So each tribe of Israel had its purpose. Each tribe had its own uniqueness, its own ability, its own Etzem, its own way of expressing, own way of living, right? But at the same time, uh, each tribe had its own identity, right? They had their own flags when they marched in the desert. They had their own columns while they were walking, okay? And they identified from one tribe to the other. There was still a division between the tribes, but the common purpose was what? That they all came together and in their own flavors, in their own colors, they were worshiping their God, right? Each one. Now, the problem happened is when individualistic behavior starts coming up. And we see this in the book of Judges. I think towards the end of the book of Judges, there was a big problem. There was a big problem with the tribe of Binyamin. And the tribe of Binyamin done something really horrific. Really horrific. I don't know if you all have studied the end of the book of Shoftim, Judges. and we see that there was a certain man from Yehuda who went on a journey with his wife to a place that was very close to uh, Jerusalem in the allotment of Binyamin, and something happened with his wife overnight. She was molested and raped and left to die, and and the man could not take it. What happened? So he does something more gruesome. So what does he do? He takes his dead, lifeless wife and he chops her up into 12 pieces. Okay, he chops her up into 12 pieces and he sends the 12 pieces to the 12 tribes of Israel and says, "This is what has happened." Now, why does he do something so gruesome? Can you imagine chopping up your wife and sending 12 pieces to the 12 tribes and say, "Okay, this is what has happened in Israel"? And all the 11 tribes get together and they come and they march against Binyamin and there are fierce battles. And until Binyamin is slaughtered and, routed out. But God also helped Binyamin on all of this. Listen to this carefully. Listen to the story. Each time the 11 tribes came to fight against Binyamin, they lost. God knew that Binyamin had done something wrong, right? But he was protecting Binyamin because he never wanted that tribe to be completely vanquished from the face of this earth, because that he needed Binyamin for a certain flavor and for a certain purpose among the 12 tribes. So Binyamin being smallest, but yet when they fought with the 11 tribes, they won every battle. And the 11 tribes would go back and say, "Lord, what have you done? Why are you not with us?" Till the time they was ultimately God given, and then they routed Binyamin, and all the males of Binyamin were slaughtered basically, except for a few who ran to the mountains. And then the tribes got together and they decided, okay, that we will not give our daughters in marriage to the tribe of Binyamin. Neither will we have anything to do with them. So what did they do? Finally, they relented, and they the tribes, the men of Binyamin who were left, about 150, 200 of them or something, that number, they called them and they allotted women for them, and that's how they built up the tribe of Binyamin all over again. And kindness came in part, and Binyamin, became fruitful again and came back into the tribe. So this is a big. But why did Binyamin behave that way? The story started was that the other tribes told Binyamin, says, "Hand us over the people who have committed this heinous crime against this woman." So Binyamin said, "We will not do that. If we catch them, we will try them own in our own sovereignty. Right? We will try them in our own sovereignty." The tribe said, "No, you have to hand it to other 11 tribes correct in what they're asking for." Maybe. Is the tribe of Binyamin also right in what they're asking for? Maybe. But you'll have to understand that each tribe had its own identity. So each tribe was a state on its own. So it's like telling America, "You please send us this fugitive from India." And America says, "No, he's an American citizen now. We just can't hand him over to you." Or there's an American who's done a big issue in India and we need him. You please expatriate him to us. America says, "No, he's an American citizen. If we catch him, we're going to try him according to the American laws." But India says, "No." How does it work? Okay. So who's right? Who's wrong? Who's this? It's crazy. So Binyamin puts up a fight because he's saying he's one, they are one of us. So we will try him according to our this thing. So that individualistic thing rose among Binyamin. And that's what started the fight between the 11 brothers and Binyamin. And and all hell broke loose. Okay, but even in all of this, God was still working. God was still helping Binyamin to overcome and to remain as a tribe. To remain as a tribe. Okay, uh, the idea behind all of this is that each tribe is going to fulfill a purpose in the future. Each tribe has something that God is going to use because, listen, the nations that are coming in are going to be grafted into one of the tribes. So the constellations are going to be emptied out of humanity and they're going to migrate from the world system constellations and they're going to become and be grafted into the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, all this makes complete sense because we are realizing what God is doing right from the book of Bereshit, from the book of Genesis. Why is he diverging humanity? Why is he creating a people for himself? Why is he creating an alternate people? And then why 12 tribes? Because the 12 constellations have control over the humanity of this earth, which is corrupted from top to down, and God has to remove humanity from that and give them a clear path of migrating from year to year. So he had to separate a nation and a people for himself for that purpose, right? And that purpose was on Pesach night. He removed them out, took them out, removed the impurities on that night, migrated them, took them onto Har Sinai, and took them to a very high level of Torah at that point of time, and instructed them, this is how you're going to live. This is now you are under my personal supervision, God says. You are not part of the nations. You're not part of the world system. You do not belong from top to down of this world system. Now, if you're studying Meslut Gerim with us, you will know exactly what I'm talking about because this is exactly was the topic that we had done last Wednesday. So the Torah is very specific in its intent. And the intent is consistently talking about the 12 tribes. That's why SHEMOT starts with, and these are the 12 tribes. Then we look also at in the book of Genesis, we also bump across a concept called Eboom, right? Eboom. What is Eboom? The halakha of Eboom, where you got to marry and keep everything within its tribe, within the family. For example, there are two brothers who are married. One brother dies and does not leave a heir. The other brother is supposed to take charge of his dead brother's wife, support her, look after her as his own, and his duty is to give her a child, and the child will not be his. The child will be in the name of his brother because his brother's inheritance will come to that child, and that wife, that widow, will be comforted with that son. So his name in Israel and in his tribe will carry on and it will carry on and carry on. Now, this does not come from a halakhic point of legality of law, but this comes from a place of absolute kindness. Listen to what I am saying. It is kindness that God asks us to do so that lineage of that one Etzem that God has invested in Israel does not fall. And it continues. That is why when the sons of Yehuda violate the laws of Eboom, Onan and this one, they die. The sons of that man who marry Ruth and Mitzpah, they die because they are not following the laws of, or not law actually, the concept of Eboom and showing tremendous kindness. Why was Abraham great in the sight of God? Now you will understand something. Avram was considered very great in the sight of God because he took on and he practiced the laws of Eboom. When his brother Nahor died in Haran, right? What did he do? He took Lot, his nephew, under his personal tutelage and his sister Sarai as his wife because he never wanted to let them go out into this world and get violated with the things and the tuma of this world. So we may look at this in a very archaic way because we're living in 2021, friends. But it's very wrong to condemn all these things with the spectacles of 2021, that which happened 4,000 years ago. Because 4,000 years ago, it was done out of out of the pure kindness for another human being. Imagine a young woman, 21, 22, who loses her husband, has no child, has no son. What's going to happen to that woman? Society is going to look down upon. Okay, she's going to go to her friends, to neighbor, and say, please assist me in this and give me a job. I need to support myself. I need to do this and do that. And society is going to violate her existence in all possible ways. Give her a menial job, underpay her, look down upon her, and this. So society is the same today, my friends. It's the same today. A lot of women in the world today suffer because they're alone. But that can all be solved if they follow at least a certain level of biblical understanding. I had a long conversation with a couple of Christians about the same Eboom, and they asked me, "Do we really need to follow the laws of Eboom?" I said, "Not really. You don't need to. I mean, you really don't have to go and marry your dead brother's wife, but at least you can take control of that family. You can take control of that family. You can educate that child. You can do this, you can do that, so that widow sister of yours does not go out into this world and lose respect, keeps the family intact. The full family should come together and look after that soul. Now, if you're talking about a woman, there's also the man. If a man loses everything in life, a man loses his wealth, his house, this thing, and he comes to a point where he goes to his brother or neighbor and say, I'm finished in life. Please give me a job. I will sign a 5-year or 10-year bond with you. Help me. The Torah says that a Hebrew slave will be someone who you treat like a brother. You will not charge him interest. You will help him, you will feed him, clothe him, you will give him work to do. You will support him till the time he's able to stand on his feet and rebuild his life. So both ways, the Torah talks about helping your male brother or friend, and it talks about supporting the woman so that society does not go bad. Because if woman goes out into this world because the family shuns her out and says, okay, you're useless because of you, your husband died and this and a whole lot of nonsense, the world outside gets corrupted. The woman gets corrupted and society gets corrupted. So the laws of Eboom were put into place to keep the tribes, keep the families in perfect tameen, perfect condition, friends. Okay, so we can look at this in a very archaic way, but it has its merits. Now, in the modern world, obviously, no one wants to do all that. It's not advisable to follow the laws of Eboom, but to a certain extent, taking on responsibility is definitely something we have to look at. Family needs to be put together and taking responsibility about, friends. This is easier said than done in this world today, friends. It's easier said than done. Okay, because it's we live in a different world. We have husbands fighting against wives, fathers fighting against sons and daughters, and there are a whole lot of stuff. So you can imagine what is the state of our society, what is the state of our families. We cannot practice chesed, kindness. Therefore, we cannot follow the laws of Chassidut. What is Chassidut? The New Testament is full of Chassidut. The book of Peter, the book of Timothy talks about kindness, Chassidut. Walk in Chassidut. How do you achieve kindness? How do you achieve uh, walking in Chassidut? The New Testament's the one goal of the New Testament, especially the epistles, is about walking in Chassidut, kindness. High level of Gemilut. You know, Gemilut Chasdim. We've studied Gemilut Chasdim, right? That high level of Chasdim. Now, if there's no kindness and if there's no love and compassion for living life between brothers and sisters and tribes and families and peers and between tribes also, now there's something seriously wrong in society. So we see that this individualistic behavior within the tribes caused problems. Okay, the first temple was destroyed simply because, as we've studied before, the centrality of Jerusalem, the violation of the Shabbat of the land, and idolatry that came in because of the centrality of Jerusalem, and people not being able to access the temple at Jerusalem because the border was put between the northern tribes and the two southern tribes. That was why the first temple was destroyed. So God took them out of the land, sorted the problem, brought them back, and said, okay, now get back into the land. But why was the second temple destroyed? The second temple was destroyed because of they were not practicing Chassidut. They were not practicing the salad bowl. They were practicing the assimilation melting pot. They were not practicing kindness with one another, but they were practicing sinat kinam, mindless and baseless hatred among themselves. The tribes of Yehuda were looking at the Galileans saying, "Oh, those Galileans and those the Israelis from the tribe of Naphtali and Dan Iskar, what do they know? No good thing comes from the Galilee. The unlearned people, they have nothing. They're just fishermen. They're just simple folks. We are the learned ones. We are the Yehudis. We are the learned ones. We are the Jews. The temple belongs to us." And this is what was happening between the brothers, friends, and the tribes, and they were fighting with one another. You see, even in the time of David Amelech and Shlomo, the tribes were fighting. In the book of Judges, they were fighting against each other. This always has been. It reached a crescendo during the Second Temple era. It reached a crescendo during the Second Temple era. And this is why we have to understand the perspective of Yeshua constantly talking to all of them at the temple, the Beth HaMikdash, saying, love one another, show kindness and compassion to one another. And he warns them, he says, if you have a problem with your brother, sort out your problem with your brother before you give your korban as an offering in the Beth HaMikdash. So if you go with your korban or your ola present and you still have an issue with your brother and sister, sort that out first before you come and give your korban. Yeshua knew exactly what he was saying. We are looking at it from a philosophical point of view. We are looking at it from a point of view of ethics, right? The church has always looked at this and say, "Oh, it's this is the code of life that I have to live. Love one another, be kind to one another." That is so shallow. That is extremely shallow to look at it in that way. The truth is, they were not practicing Kasidut and Gimlut Chasdim in their lives. That is why Yeshua also said, when in the book of Yochanan, when they said, "Lord, Lord, look at this temple, see how grand this temple is." Yeshua turned to them and said, "I tell you the truth," he says, "not one stone will be left in its place, and everything will be upturned in this temple. Nothing will be left." And they were all shocked. They said, "Are you serious?" He says, "Yes." Why? Because you can build the grandest temple, the grandest synagogue, the grandest everything for God. Be the richest congregation, you can have everything for God. But in the congregation, if there is animosity and mindless and baseless hatred, God will destroy it. And when I look at our country, up and down, top to down, left to right, north to south, east to west, we are seeing many, many things happening in our country and countries abroad against Christianity, laws that are coming up. And I don't want to sound very political right now. And I don't want to blame powers to be. The blame is on us, friends. You know why? Now you all will understand what I'm trying to tell you. Because we are practicing Sinat Kinam amongst ourselves. We're not practicing Kasidut. Direct, Directly proportional to what we are doing, God is setting up the opposition to punish us. Don't look at the powers that are and look at them as an evil force. It's not them, it's us. It is us. It's always been us. When Israel went into exile and when God punished them for things, it was not about Sennacherib and Achashverosh, and it was not about Nebuchadnezzar, and it was not about the Syrian and the Babylonians. And no, it was always about them because they messed up and they practiced Sinat Kinam and they never practiced Kasidut and they never practiced Arbut for each other. Therefore, God had to use the nations. Then God had to use the Goyim to chastise them and to bring them back. So the tribes are not a melting pot. They are a wonderful salad bowl, each unique with its strengths, with its flavors, its colors, its own uh, uniqueness, blending in the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of heaven. God is going to cherish, friends. It's not about losing your identity, losing your uniqueness, becoming something that it's one with the masses. That's not what we are called for. We're called to be beautiful in the sight of God. Yet, but our oneness comes through the expression of God's uniqueness in our lives individually. When His presence dwells with us and inside of us and through us, when His Shekinah glory is with us, when His Holy Spirit is, is bursting forth through us, through wisdom and through understanding and through knowledge and through patience and to kindness and to ahava and to savalnut and a whole lot of things. That is the oneness that's going to bind us all together in the kingdom of God. So we can ask, why are these tribes there for? Why are there 12 tribes? Couldn't God make one people and one tribe and everything sorted? No, because God loves. I think uh, God loves the white man as much as he loves the colored man, and as much as he loves the yellow race, or the red race, or the blue race, or the pink race. Who cares about all this stuff? Each one is unique. Each one gives his own way of worshipping the eternal Father. But know this for sure, that we have to remove and extract ourselves from the mazal of this world, and migrate to the mazal of the 12 tribes of Israel. Therefore, it says in the book of Revelations that when the new Jerusalem comes from above, it has the foundation of the 12 apostles, with Yeshua being the cornerstone himself, and 12 gates with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. And you and me are going to enter that gate if we are found worthy, because standing at the gate is going to be Yehuda himself saying, do you know the Torah? Do you know, have you practiced Hasidut? Or Levi, or Issachar, or Dan, wherever we from the nations are grafted in, we will be slotted to come to that gate, and we're going to stand under that gate of that tribe, and then God will take us in as fellow citizens. But we're going to go to the fire of those 12 Jewish tribes, friends. Now, I know you'll have not ever thought about this, but this is the truth. This is the truth. So, as much as we want to be divergent and make our own theology or make a very replacement theology living in this world, I want you all to think and process this out very, very clearly. That the end is going to be the final amalgamation and the final oneness through Yeshua into the 12 tribes of Israel. That is it, because that's what it says in the book of Revelations. That is the goal of everyone. And the mazal coming out from Mitzrayim, from the world system, and attaching ourselves to that, we have to be in this process. Because not in this process, we've not even started then. We've not even started, friends. Okay. So something very simple which I wanted to share with you all, because I know it's everybody's busy with the festival and celebrations all around. So till we meet next, shalom and litraot, Shabbat shalom to everybody. God bless. Yeah. Till we meet next.